Hi, India. Hi. It's recording.
Hi, Natalie.
Hello.
Oh, the author of Ensoulment.
Mm.
Yes. Oh my God, I can't wait till we dive into this. Can you tell me, well, first of all, can you introduce yourself, what your background is, and then you have two books,
Mhm.
what they are both about from a high level of summarization.
Okay. Thank you, India. It's great to be with a soul that has done an incredible journey on a personal level, on a body level, on a community level. It's really, really makes a huge difference. The reason I'm saying that is the quality of what's coming, of what will come out, what I will utter out of my lips. The quality depends on who is asking, who is interested, who is curious, who is playing with these yummy wisdom, pieces of wisdom. So I'm very grateful when there is a person who meets me and who meets the wisdom.
Mhm.
There's a celebration in the house. So thank you, number one. And I see you, I hear you, I feel you, I know you. So Nathalie Zeitouni, born, raised in the Middle East, spent half of my life in California, engineer, information system engineer and architect, turned into a consciousness researcher, mystic, channeler of wisdom. Really, that's what I do. And through that, using the wisdom to create environments, relationships, uh, higher grade environments, relationships, organizations, and people, including myself. I'm the first one. So when I'm upgrading first myself.
Mhm.
I have a lot of work. Everybody who knows me know I have a lot of more work to do, but it's using this wisdom. Now the wisdom started coming to me. So if you want one word, I'm a modern mystic. I this term came out, I don't know, 10 years ago. I coined that term, and it just came to me. It feels right. I'm really a mystic. I'm connected to the deepest aspects of creation of the universe, the essential realm, the elemental realms, the life realms. And this is the mystic in me. And I'm not only connected, but I'm curious to understand, to know them intimately, to feel them, to dance them, to kiss them, to make love with them. So it's a very, very intimate, hands-on, immersive process that I am working with. So I'm a mystic and modern mystic because I definitely care about what our civilization is doing today, like how we treating each other, how countries are relating to each other, why there's wars in different regions, why how we developing AI and cryptocurrency. And because of my background in technology and IT, I can this realm is developed, so I can listen to it and I can see how does this inform our next evolutionary phase. So there's the mystic who is connected to the wisdom of life, and then there is the system thinker, IT, technology, um, very relevant to what we're doing today, which is the modern mystic. So that's why I'm in 2 minutes.
That's really fascinating because my background of 23 years is in human resources recruiting, and I started for 12 years as an IT staffing agency.
God, I didn't know that.
I'm
I didn't know
just like, and while you love the IT piece of it, I love the behavioral piece
that.
of it.
Mm, mm,
Like
mm.
that's what I track and I see, but I love data also, which is very unusual.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
like, "Huh, of course."
Yes.
So a modern day mystic, do you believe that you were called to be a mystic? That that is your calling?
So look, when you look at what's the name of the seed of the oak tree?
The seed of the oak tree. I
Acorn?
Oh, an
Acorn?
acorn? Yes, yes, acorn.
Um, so when you ask the acorn, are you called to be an oak tree? What will they say? Say, what else can I be? Okay, so the answer is it's the natural unfolding process of my soul, of my innermost being, that is orchestrating the whole thing. It started with fleeing a war zone in the Middle East when I was 5, to growing up in the country I grew up, to moving to information system architecture and understanding systemic thinking, to moving toward consciousness and energy and vibration and healing. And so, am I called to do that? No, actually, I'm guided. I'm guided, but I'm not even guided from here. It's more of a moment by moment unfolding. And this moment by moment is taking me to where I need to go. I just need to listen, to open all my facilities, all my capacities to be able to listen, because sometimes the messages, like, like sometimes like, whoa, what was that? And so it's the ability to refine the vessels of perception to allow to decode the messages that are inherent in the moment by moment unfolding, to decode them, and then to do what needs to be done. So I wasn't called to be a mystic. It's just a matter of fine-tuning my vessel. And many times I resisted. For 10 years, I resisted this. And when I was resisting, I suffered a lot of pain, a lot of depression, sadness, existential emptiness, meaninglessness, because I resisted. I'm like, okay, you resist, that's what you feel. And I was stubborn. I have a very strong personality. So I had to really work with my personality to start to soften, to start to listen, to start to really listen to the little fine-tuning adjustments. And that's how you become the acorn, become the oak tree.
I love that, the acorn and the oak tree. So as I'm listening to your story, I'm like, oh, there was the dark night of the soul.
Oh,
When
yeah.
when we don't, when our higher self is calling and we're not listening or we're resisting, we cause ourselves an enormous amount of pain. And often I have found, and you can elaborate on this, that we don't know what we don't know. I didn't know I was being guided on another path. And so I kept resisting and fighting. And it wasn't until it was so deep that I had nothing to do but surrender.
That's
So
what
you
happened to me.
talk about
Yes,
your process with that?
yes, 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 yes. So we haven't talked yet about ensoulment, but exactly in the ensoulment unfolding, there's a whole phase that is called soullessness, when we're actually living life almost without a soul, just with the inertia of our programs, habits, fears, obsession, addiction. All this is soulless. There's no soul there. There's like maybe 0.0001 soul just to keep the body alive, but there's very little soul. And you can see it doesn't have to go as far as addictions and obsessions or programs or pain or victimhood, or it can be as simple as my life is just gray. Every day is the same. I'm kind of bored with myself. That's a soullessness state. Okay, so it doesn't have to be so extreme that people go into the radical, cancer and because this is a radical state of, like, sometimes it's a choice of the body and soul to heal through that, but sometimes it's a radical state of soullessness. Okay, or of pain body that completely took over the body, and then there's no room for the soul. There's no room for the soul. So that's a soullessness phase within the 5 phases of the whole ensoulment process.
Interesting. And how did you discover that ensoulment process?
I went through a very dark night of the soul. It started in 2000. I was kind of living my life, oblivious, doing things, rolling and moving and shaking in the corporate world, businesses successful, having my own. So, I was just doing my thing. And then something happened about 15 years ago, where the life that I had was no longer fulfilling whatsoever. I didn't want more money. I didn't want more girlfriends. I didn't want more homes, more investment, more businesses, more contract. I didn't want all the life. And I write about it in Ensoulment One. So I have 4 books, actually. The first book is a pure business book. The second book is Conscious Business, which is another part of my soul evolution. The third one is Ensoulment, discovering your soul DNA, connecting with the soul of the world. Because when we discover and embody our soul DNA, the acorn versus the oak tree, when we become the oak tree, we actually connect with the soul of the world. And it's a very, very ecstatic state. So that's the third book. It's about discovering your soul DNA and connecting with the soul of the world. The fourth book is actually Ensoulment, the Future of Reality. Basically, it is a body of wisdom that was channeled to me that shows the interconnectedness of all realms, all dimensions, and every experience, how the entire universe is evolving through our experience. So our experience is actually golden, and it's a pretty big revelation. Quantum physics is starting to get there, which is another collaboration I'm working on how the existing physical model of reality is matching Ensoulment model of reality. Because if we don't learn to be masters of reality, then we're just going to be played with whatever the collective field is. And sometimes the collective field looks like a war in the Middle East, look like Donald Trump, looks like, and that's a reality we're creating unconsciously because we're still kind of walking in the dark. So the fourth book is about learning to decode how you create realities, because every person has its own universe.
Mm-hmm.
Then once you decode how you create reality with your soul, how you actually manifest that reality. So that's the fourth book. So I had a crisis, but I resisted because I had a very strong personality. And being a Leo and being in my 30s, being so like, this is how it is. There's no like, okay, let's explore something else. Let's stop. Let's pause. No, no. So my personality really went through a big, big meltdown. I lost everything I liked. I gave up my relationships, my homes. I moved to another place. And then I started sinking into emptiness, meaninglessness, darkness. All the shit I was afraid of just showed up in my life. You know, when you have a medicine journey that it's like a really challenging. I had this for a few years. I had it for a few years. Nothing satisfied me anymore. Nothing. The only thing I could do is wake up, be kind of in a zombie state, but not zombie awake, but still zombie. And then just do minimum. And it lasted for a few years until I said, okay, Natalie, so this is not going anywhere. You're wrestling with God. It's leading you nowhere. You're wrestling with the goddess. It's leading you nowhere. What do you want? What do you want? So I started writing. I started journaling about how awful my experience of living is, because I didn't get what I want, because I'm a brat. If I don't get what I want, I'm a brat. I used to be. It's now 2 decades ago, okay? So I changed a lot. Now when I don't get what I want, I'm like, thank you, goddess. I get it. That's not the right door. I get it. I get it. When I'm moving towards something and that something is closing, shutting the door, or I'm like, okay, I'm not supposed to be there. But in my 30s, it's like, no, no, let me try to open. Let me go above. Let me go ahead. Let me pout. Let me moan and groan and throw a tantrum. That's in my 30s, okay? Well, it didn't lead me anywhere. I did that with the goddess. I did it with the God. I did it with love. I'm like, this is what life is about. So this major tantrum started having a process of actually really, and I write about it in Ensoulment 1, kind of really undressing everything that's not my core essence, my core soul. Undressing everything was not easy because I was left with nothing. I was left with like a vibrating essence, but it had no vessel to express itself. So that's another thing I talk about in Ensoulment. So you have particles of experience in Ensoulment, which are very critical to your evolution. Like, what is your moment by moment experience? That's what's going to dictate what you're going to create. So the experience is critical, but then the vessel you create, what kind of mental body you have, what kind of emotional body, what kind of relational body, what kind of creative body. Like, what are the vessels that can actually your soul can inhabit? And if you have old outdated structures like most of our planet right now has, the kind of old fragmented scientific reductionist a patriarchal war power over people, this is such an old structure. Now it's kind of like it's going to die very soon, and a new structure is going to arise. The same happened on a personal level. So everything I'm telling you is happening on a personal level, on a relational level. Like our relationship together can go through a breakdown, a breakthrough, a thriving, a learning, a healing. Everything I'm saying is happening at all levels because the whole universe is a mirror of mirrors. So when you heal yourself, when you heal your wound, when you heal your abuse, when I heal my refugee girl, when I hear my, avoidant thing, I heal the entire planet archetypal patterns because it always happened at all dimensions. Okay.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
what ended up happening with this awakening, with this process, is I delved down into soullessness and I started seeing all the places that I am not ensouled. Like my soul is not present, there's no soul there. And slowly, slowly started to create vessels. How do you create vessels? Through repeated experiences. Okay. You repeat experience, like you repeat a comforting, kind thought. You repeat a comforting listening. You repeat a compassionate behavior toward yourself instead of a judgmental. You repeat it, and then it creates a structure. And then that structure starts to evolve inside you. And that's how you create a new human, a new Natalie, a new India. The new structures are created through repeated repairing, healing experiences. That's how these new structures happen. But that happened throughout time. So when I delved into the soullessness, what ended up happening is, and because of my personality, it took me years to get out of that. I started writing, and as I was writing, first I was moaning and groaning, and I don't like that, and I was like complaining, frustrated. My whole design, frustration. I'm like, what are you frustrated about? But I had to write it all down, okay? And
Mhm.
as I was writing through all this and kind of clearing it from my space, this automatic writing, all of a sudden, a huge like, whoa, what was that? Like sentences that I would write. I was like, what was that? So then my engineer, my system thinker started getting into it. I realized, oh, let me write really what's going on for me with automatic writing, and let me gather these pearls of wisdom. One every few days, there was like something that I've never heard before, which is quite profound. And that's when the body of Ensoulment started channeling through me.
Mm. What year was that?
This was 2000. Well, I started to descend to the underworld in about 2008. The peak of my underworld was 2013. 2014, I moved out of where I used to live. I left my relationship. I left everything behind. And from 2014 till this day, about 10 years, that's what I do. I'm just a teacher of wisdom, but like I'm channeling this wisdom when it's right, when it's coming. So I would say the wisdom started forming, coalescing in around between 2015 until now. Now there's another level, like almost like Ensoulment 2.0, but
Mhm.
I don't know yet how it wants to express. It doesn't want to talk anymore. It doesn't want to write anymore. It wants to do it in a different way. I'm like, okay, how? I have no answers, but I'm listening. I'm listening to her, to it.
The vessel. God, it's so fascinating how similar our stories are. I mean, the paths, it's like how we got to where we got and how we came out of it are different, but the timing and everything is just so, and what we learned and what we experienced is so similar. Because that's when it all started for me, was in 2008.
And look, when two souls meet, like you and I, and we have this like, okay, for many reasons, this, but when this happens, it's a recognition of the soul. And it's the
Yes.
knowledge that we have to do a journey together. What is the nature of the journey? How it's going to unfold? What it's going to entail? Our soul is going to tell us.
Yeah.
But that's what happened when you meet another in soul. So when your soul meets another soul, and that energy, because of the kind of communion and meeting and hello soul to soul.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. It's like we had our own contract.
Yes.
We have our own contract. That contract has looked many different ways.
Right, right.
But that's and I want to talk about this actually,
Mhm.
because I think it's a really important piece. When conflict arises with someone, right? And usually because when we're unaware, we go into a power struggle. You did this and you, and there it goes. And then there's the blame and there's the victimization. And that's where you hold the energy in your life, right?
Yes.
And I know this because I lived in that space for many, 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 many years, right? Because I didn't know any different.
Mhm.
And, when lots of relationships, exploded and blew up, or I wouldn't talk to you for a year if you hurt my feelings. Like that was just where I was. I'm a late bloomer. I was emotionally immature. And, and the big thing that I find so beautiful, and you said this earlier as well, and it's all kind of in the same family, if you will, when things are uncomfortable or when we have conflict with someone who we care about, right? And how, because when we're in a place of self awareness, we can receive the medicine of the other person, which creates a more beautiful dance. Every relationship that I have had conflict that have both have worked our own within our own medicine. And what it does is that it creates a deeper connection to that person. There's a level of trust because it's like, I'm doing my work, you're doing yours. It doesn't feel good, but thank you.
Listen, I have to tell you, it's not only a deeper, I mean, absolutely everything you say, absolutely a deeper connection and a deeper soul journey and a deeper communion, absolutely. But there's even a much more important thing that I feel. The healing you are getting from an ensouled relationship and the healing I get from an ensouled relationship, it's almost like it's the most important. So the healing we're doing with each other, for each other, with each other is priceless because it's almost no other person will embody an archetype like you embody for me and I embody for you. And then I get to meet it in flesh, in my eyes, in front of my eyes. It's very, very powerful. And this is like it's almost like once if the two people care for each other and they're mature enough and they're able to have to see it as an ensoulment growth process, then what ends up happening, we move together through the tunnel, the birth canal, and then a whole nother realm is revealed to us. And then we move to another canal, and then a whole nother realm. So relationships is one of the most important. I can't emphasize enough for evolution of the planet, the evolution of the soul, the evolution of the cosmos, because we are all related. That's the thing. So if
Yeah.
we know how to master relationships and intimacy and connection and the right insult talk, um, the right insult perspective, the right insult holding each other. Wow, this can be unbelievable and on all levels.
Yes, yes, it can. And I think this is where, like when we were talking about Amazonas earlier, right? It is
Maybe you
it's
want to say to Amazonas that it's a retreat center for women in Greece. It's a healing center. Yes, that our community founded, our women community founded. Yes.
yes. And I think right now this is where a lot of the tantra, the kundalini, that's all coming forward. And I really want to emphasize that everything is about within first. Okay? You cannot give away what you don't have. We just can't. I mean, it might be for where we are in that moment doesn't make it bad. It's kind of like the difference between how big do you want your orgasm to be, right? Because that's what it is. Even when you're by yourself, it's the energy, it's the relationship with oneself. And we are all used to going outward. So help us, help
Mm,
the audience, whoever is watching this, when we talk about the soul,
mhm,
even though we're all connected, we're all the fragmented pieces of the God self.
mhm, mhm,
So if you're the soul and you're working through your incarnation as your soul chose here, right? How does that connect to the other aspects of your life in helping you to maneuver through the 3D, say with the label of being gay?
mhm, mhm, mhm. Okay. Whew, wow, wow, wow. I love your deep questions. I really love your deep questions. Wow, 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 wow. Okay. So remember I was sharing with you about my kind of refugee survivor girl archetype. So that was the beginning. Then there was the one who was striving. I was striving to be successful, like the corporate time. And I did very well because I was determined. So that's the second phase, the striving. Then fruit started to come, things started to happen in the physical world, because when you strive for something and you're really committed and you're really there and you put all of yourself, then things start to manifest. It's kind of the next phase is the descent into soullessness. Because the way I was doing things, the way our planet is doing things, the way we have been doing relationships, victim, you did that, power, like all this started to crumble underneath my feet.
Mhm.
So then when all structures within us crumble, so there is a period between the complete silence of crumbling, like after a war zone and everything is flat because horrific death. And so yeah, I'm just like talking about it, I feel so sad what's happening right now, really. Like the because the old paradigm is not able to sustain what's happening in the Middle East. It's never going to be able to sustain it. There's never going to be peace from the old paradigm, ever, ever, ever. But they don't know yet what's the next phase. They don't know how to do peace. If they knew, they would do it. Okay. So as you're moving through this silence of destruction, like you look at yourself and there's like you are obliterated. Okay.
Mhm.
Then little glistening of something new starts to emerge in your obliterated dark, the dark part of the soul. And that starts almost like it has to be obliterated, so something completely new will emerge. Okay. It's like the transmutation of the chrysalis to become a butterfly. It
Mhm.
has to morph, metamorphosis. There's no, oh, let me just add wings and add and make myself lighter. No. This worm has to go. You got to get yourself in a cocoon and then go to become a butterfly. A butterfly? Like from this chunky worm, a butterfly? How is it possible? Well, this is the transmutation power of life, the transmutation power of destruction, of power of destruction and fire and many other things. But you start getting, and that's I call in Ensoulment the alchemical phase. There's an alchemical phase when you're still your old self, you're kind of getting a sense for the new self, but you're cooking, you're simmering in this. It's torture, I must tell you. What Israel and Palestine and the Middle East is going through, what a lot of the people that are in that state are going through, it's torture. It's torture to everybody, to the animals, to the dogs, to the cats, to the babies, to there's no one species that is spared. I'm gonna finish and I'm gonna let you say that alchemical phase, it's the cooking phase. You're cooking in your own juices.
Right.
It's
Mhm.
like this cocoon that you, and then the glimpses of this new ensouled state are starting to call you from your future. They're starting to call you. You're getting them in dreams, you're getting them in orgasms, you're getting them in hours of crying. But you're getting something is calling you from the future. You have no idea what it is, but it's calling you. And then it takes cultivation of courage, cultivation of relation. Now, why relationships is so critical? Because this entire universe is intertwined. It's a web of life. Then all of the participants in this web of life are in relationship to each other. So because our inherent nature is relatedness, what better way is there to teach in first grade, second grade, third grade relationship? Instead of teaching, yeah, we have to teach geometry, we have to teach algebra, we have to teach about 1 + 1 = 2. Yeah, okay, fine. But relationship is an inherent design. So when you understand how relationships are so critical because they're inherent in our design, I mean, look at our body, how interrelated it is, then you start really listening to how you transform your relationships. I could not do it for a long time. I just would avoid people because I'm an avoidant. That's my easy. I'm like, okay, I have issues with this. I have issues. Let me just avoid. No, baby. I will avoid it for a while, but then I'm coming back to life and I'm like, okay, what's happening here? What's happening between us? What's going on? Let's talk about it. I listen, I cry, they cry. And then we move to another birth canal. So relating is critical. Yes. Now you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Yes. So when you were talking about, war-torn areas, as an example, in Israel, if and this is, such a delicate question, because it's like our soul has a journey here. It has a mission here. I don't know what that is. We're all trying to figure that out. Hopefully, we're trying to figure that out. So when we look at like a war-torn area, it's like, how do we wrap our head around that is part of the story of the soul's evolution?
Exactly. So here we go. Remember how we talked earlier about everything I'm talking about is a kaleidoscope, which means we experience it on our inner level, our personal level, our relational level, our our neighborhood level. So it's happening always concentric circles. So everything we're talking about has a soul. So you have a soul, your home has a soul. Sedona is very different than California, very different than Tel Aviv. It has a different soul.
Mm.
So the region itself has a soul. The Palestinian people, the Israeli people, the Jewish nation, the Arab nation, the Middle East, the land itself has a soul. And this is a very, very ancient, multi-dimensional soullessness phase that this region is in. And it depends on the vessel we are going to develop, people like you and I and all of our listeners. Depending on the vessels we're going to create, and a vessel, I mean a book, a talk, a authentic relating, a dance, an experience. Like we need to bring vessels to these regions. Now, the vessels will arrive. We need to broadcast them. They will arrive to whoever is ready to listen.
Mm-hmm.
So the Middle East has a soul and it's going through an ensoulment process. What is an ensoulment process? It's embodying greater and deeper and wider states of your soul. More of your soul, more of India, more of her passion, more of her authentic communication, more of her juices, more of her orgasms, more of her books, more of her relating. It's more. More doesn't mean more in numbers. It's just a higher grade of who really India is, of this acorn. It's having a more precise, accurate expression of who you are. So the region itself is going through that ensoulment process, which means that the energy of the region, the vibration of the region, the history of the region is all undergoing a transmutation. Now, there's a possibility here for a huge transformation. Like this becomes the golden era of humanity starts there in Jerusalem. There's an opportunity for that because where the most pain is where the most potential. That's how it works, okay?
Yep.
So
Yep.
there is a potential there, and that's another initiative I'm working on, which is called Middle East 2.0, to bring back the soul to the Middle East and to create, instead of Israel and Palestine, to create the United States of the Middle East, the United States of the Middle East. Because let's unite all the nations there, the United Nations of the Middle East, okay? So it's not only about Israel and Palestine, it's whoever lives there. There's so many people live there from different denominations. Can we create now, can we allow the embodiment of a new soul to kind of penetrate the region, start to lick the wounds and heal and start to bring a whole nother soul to the region? And can we create embodiment of this soul, which means new governance structures, new financial system, new human rights system, new reconciliation, healing, and transformation systems. All these are new tools that needs to be brought to the region, need to be infused in the region. And once they are, and we're taking this 8 million people, group of people, which is nothing, it's the size of New Jersey, okay? We use that as a prototype with the support of the entire world. It's not the problem of Israel and Palestine, what's happening there. it's the whole world problem.
Yes.
Because if this succeeds, imagine what's possible around the world between African American and American Indian and the land and white people and black and Indian and Chinese and Jews and Armenian. Like imagine what's possible.
Yes.
And that's the dream of Vatsafo Village. The dream is to create a women community that is a prototype
Mhm.
of such an embodied life that is authentic, real, healing together, creating together, empowering each other. So that's where my soul is calling me to bring the Ensoulment not only as a book, but as something that can seed a movement to embody a new way of ensouled humanities, ensouled Middle East, ensouled America. Could you imagine what would happen in America if America would live her soul? America living her soul, this creative, innovative, vibrant, abundant soul. Do you imagine what will happen in America? So that's where I'm at. So I hope I answered this question. Ay, 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 ay.
Clearly you did, because whatever rolled out was exactly what it was that we were supposed to hear. So thank you. And yes, it's like, I always, because of the way my brain thinks, I always go to the end result and then I work my way backwards, right? It's like how I was a good project manager. What's the end result? And let's work
Mhm.
backwards out of that. And, I think, fundamentally, when we look at where we are in time right now, right? We are at a much higher level of consciousness. We still have a lot of work to do, but we're starting to course correct a little bit, if you will, which is beautiful. And I think it's interesting that we were not ever in any past history were we ever born and taught,
Mm.
let's, like my parents, if you will, okay, as an example. I'm 60, right? 60 years ago, women weren't raising babies, or even with the notion of how do I allow this soul
Mm.
to express itself in its true incarnation here. Instead, we have what we now call all the wounding, the healing that's coming with it generationally, our own, it's all happening at once, it's a lot. And so, do you feel that if women today in a higher state of consciousness were having babies and raising those babies in a way that is allowing the soul to evolve the way that it chose to incarnate here, versus you're my child and now I'm going to fuck you up for the rest of your life, excuse me, because then we spend our whole life unwinding from things that, you know what I mean, we lose.
Yes, correct. But don't forget, when you chose your parents,
Yes,
when you chose your perpetrators, when
yes,
you chose the people who afflicted pain,
yes.
when we chose these, when I chose to be born in the middle of a war, of a civil war in Beirut, when I was choosing to go to Israel, I mean, honey, I was in Greece, you were with me. I was like, oh yeah, let me go to Israel to be with my mom, October 1st. When I choose this month in Israel, where bombs are falling and people are being massacred, and when I'm choosing that, there's a very, very precise activation of what needs to be healed. And we're orchestrating, and you know that because of your incredible shadow work and incredible shadow writing. The shadow is the parts of us to the listeners who are disowned, who we haven't quite integrated into our entire soul, entire self vessel. So you as a shadow worker or shadow wisdom teacher, you understand that the people, the situations, the lands. Why would I be born in the Middle East? I'm way more in affinity with California, with American Indians, with like the vast wilderness of New Zealand. Why would I go to the Middle East, for God's sake? So, and spend decades healing my wounding of anxiety and fears and power over. behavior. And because this was, so when the soul, before the soul comes in, you know how they say, they not only say, they already documented it with people who went up and down, back again, that you have a life review. So you have a life review at the end of your life. You have a life review if you leave your body for any reason. At night, we have that. But we also have life review before we come in. So before you arrive here, you have a life review. And your soul has very particular direction, what it needs to work on this life. This is why every moment is so precious. Now, your soul has to work on the stuff you worked on with your family, with your abusers, with your perpetrators, with your own sense. To what? To claim back your true power, to claim back your true wisdom, to claim back your soul. Okay. So I had the same process because I had like a power, but it was a different power. It's a power of a personality. And that power is like Vladimir Putin. It's like Bibi Netanyahu. It's like what's his name? The billionaire, Donald Trump. That's a nice power in one dimension. But guess what? It's worth nothing in other dimensions. Nothing. Okay, because it's not aligned with the principles, with universal principles. So imagine I'm coming to truly own my power, truly. So I go into architecting in my life review. What is the best place? Family, siblings, relationships, experiences that I'm going to lead myself toward. I mean, why would I become a system engineer? Why would I become that? Because systemic thinking is critical to the 3D metrics that we live in. Why would I love English since I was 5? I loved English. Why? Because my soul knew I'm going to spend time internationally. Most of my life is going to be internationally. Why would I mean, I speak Arabic, Hebrew, French. Why would I need English? My soul at 5 years old is like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. I fell in love with my English teacher. I followed her everywhere. I read all the books 10 times. My English became, because my soul already orchestrated this. So your soul orchestrated all these kind of shadowy things. So whoever is coming today and having a soul review, they're already planning the parents. They will not. So look, if somebody has to heal from something, I mean, I have major stuff I had to heal in the relational field, in the trauma field, in the anxiety, fear, and really trusting the universe. Like my soul trusts the universe 100%. But my human aspect, I don't trust. I don't fucking trust. People are not so trustworthy. Sorry. So I had to work through this trust thing. So what better environment than what I did? Okay. So it's the same with your soul. So the kids who are coming now are very, very carefully choosing, because the one who are coming, these indigo and beyond kids, they are so critical to our evolution. I think leaders, I mean, I don't think so, but in the manifesto that I created for Middle East 2.0 to ensoul the Middle East, the young people are leading us. The young, because they're coming fully enlightened already. Okay.
Those star seeds.
Yes, star seeds, exactly. So you bring them, you bring women, you bring the good things that are working in our civilization, and then you start a whole new leadership, and you have a United Nation of the Middle East. And then, okay, what can we do if we're a United Nation? Everybody's equal. We're just a different dot on the circle. How do we live together? How do we heal? I mean, your father raped my mom. What am I going to do with that? I can't just go about it and say, oh, I love you. No, it's a lie. If your father raped my mom and killed her and massacred and slaughtered her, I need to work with healing.
Yep.
The intergenerational trauma, and we do it in healing and reconciliation. So all the prisons turn into healing centers. You don't just throw people in prison. You make them, open them up to the good life, to healing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's a part of the vision.
Thank you for that. It's as far as what I understand, you're very spot on with that. It's a very delicate balance often in communication with people when things are difficult, like in Israel, right? Or something traumatic happens. It's kind of like if you happen to believe in God, that's a God of some religion, you believe or you don't. There is no in between. And it's not about whether you believe or you don't when it's convenient for you.
Yeah, but India, what happened when your soul believes 100%, but your body hasn't developed yet the trust muscle or the trust vessel? Then what do you do then? You understand that it's about what your vessel is capable of doing. So the soul has all this potential. Humanity has a potential for being like, wow, mind-blowing exemplar for all galaxies around. Okay, we have this potential. And what kind of vessels, what kind of communication, what kind of relationships, what kind of creation, what are we building, what are we creating? So it's what vessels are you going to create with learning to trust, okay, the trusting vessel. That's what's going to lead you to the next level. So what I'm trying to say is your soul is trusting, but are you really able to trust? If you sit in front of your perpetrator, are you really able to open your heart in front of them? That's the level of healing we need to do, because these are the vessels. So when you're able to sit in front of somebody and say, that's my brother, that's my sister, that's my lover, that's my beloved, even though they killed and raped and massacred and abused their power and abused their this, you sit with them. And when you're able to do that, you're developing, as you're sitting with them, you're developing vessels of presence with the polarization of victim and perpetrator. Your presence with that develops the vessel, and the vessel itself does the healing. So if you're able to do that on a personal level, on a relational level, on a global level, that's how you start creating a new planet, a new reality for that works for everybody.
Yes, and I believe that that can happen through shadow work,
Oh, yes.
because that is to unwind
Yes.
ourself, and to understand what the soul. This is part of the work that I do, is that, it's the Harvard material. I don't take people who are in kindergarten, 6th grade, just on their journey. I don't take them into the soul piece, but it is some deep questions that we talk about.
Yeah. But don't
So
forget, you're a triple Scorpio. That is very like it's kind of your
quadruple.
thank you very much, quadruple Scorpio. So that's your, you already have a structure. You're already predispositioned for shadow. But if you talk, let's say I bring somebody who is completely like oblivion or haven't even delved into the mysteries of the underworld. Whoa, how do you do that with them? So just so you know, your presence alone, your soul presence alone as a quadruple shadow soul worker, your presence alone in the supermarket, your presence alone on Amazonas, transform that land. Amazonas is not the same before you were there and after you were there, just so you know. It's you and what you did with this group that you brought together and the powerful ceremony that you, I mean, look at, I won't mention name, but look what happened to people that tantra for them was like, oh, it's tantra, like fucking no, it's not. It's so that's what your energy does to people, just your quadruple in soul shadow work presence, okay? And this is what we need more, because you're right. Without shadow work, look, you cannot go to the 5 phases of ensoulment if you don't graduate soullessness. And soullessness has to do with shadow work. Without shadow work, we're nothing. And I went through it kicking and screaming for 10 years. 10 years I did shadow work. 10 years. I still am doing some yes, I still am doing some shadow work around. I'm still doing shadow work around other stuff, but I'm growing. I'm growing. I'm seeing my growth. So that's all I care about. I'm very gentle with my little girl. I'm gentle with my personality. I'm like, okay, you're growing, Natalie. At least you're growing. You still have a way to go, but you're growing.
Yep. Yes, and we all do, even and this is, I know for myself, in my infinite wisdom, with all I have learned through all I have been through, and I still do things, right? And I'm just like, and I want to shame myself, and it's like, no, no, no. Find the medicine in the experience, because there is no right or wrong or good or bad or left or right or up or down. It's all necessary. Even when we do things, I can go into my destructive behavior, and it's just like, oh, and I'm like, come on, India. And then I'm like, why am I and I start unwinding myself.
I want to say something. How critical every moment is, India. So every moment you're choosing a destructive, shameful thought, you're building more structures for destruction. Every moment you're thinking kind thoughts, it's like, oh, that was shame. Let's look at that. Come, let me take care of you, baby. What's going on? Who's shaming? What happened? Like when you are able to tend the fire, to tend your inner world, to tend your underground, to tend your dark, dark places, what you're doing, you're because every experience solidify into a vessel that becomes an imprinting in us, then that's why it's so critical that every thought you choose, every feeling you feel, every connection you have is really supporting you and healing you. Because if we don't do that, then we're actually building vessels of destruction, like what you just said, like what's happening in the Middle East, just flattening 25,000 people. Are you serious? Don't you think there's a karmic thing? Are you fucking serious? Coming in and slaughtering 1,500 people? Are you serious? So now what happened is, if these vessels of darkness continue, then there's ISIS, Daesh, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, there's more and more vessels. And then they're daring to do it in the World Trade Center. Then they dare to do it in the Golden Gate. Then they're, because more and more vessels. So I'm saying this because it's really about the inner shadow work and the creation of interior structures that are life affirming interior structures. And when we do it on a life affirming interior structure inside of us, in our relating, in our love for each other, and our care for each other, in the collective regional political structures that are life affirming, then this starts to propagate all over the world.
Yes, yes, and that, yes, and I also believe that even in my own, like, I'll just, expose my own destruction, right? Like when I wanted to smoke tobacco, right? And why am I, blah, 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 the whole process of it all. And also looking at that, and this has been something I have looked at for several years now, and I only started smoking 4 years ago, but I stopped. And, it's a very grounding, tobacco is very grounding for me. However, my addiction, the addictive part of my personality, which comes from being disconnected to myself, right? And this I know. And, and then I'm letting it play out, right?
Mhm.
And I'm seeing it and I'm watching it and I'm like, wow, I'm really going into some destruction. It's also, and this is why I'm like, there's no right or wrong or good or bad to anything that we do, because even that part of me is so necessary, because I can only hold space for someone as deep as I have gone. So if you have an extremely addictive personality, but mine's only here because it's been 37 years since I've been in any kind of addiction, I don't remember what that's like. And I'd start thinking, get your shit together. When I went through my own, like, wow, and I started observing my own behavior and
Mhm.
why and my choices, and
Mhm.
boom, and it was getting worse because of course I take myself as deep as I can go right before I implode myself. It's the nature of the beast, being a 4 planet Scorpio.
Yes, and India, it's
Yeah.
about creating this inner structure of how you hold your healing process. So I
Yes.
absolutely agree. Every part of your healing process is necessary for your next phase. I completely agree. And there's a way in which you can create an inner psychic, psychological, internalized structure where you have this inner parent that is like the divine mother, the divine father inside you, and the union that is really inner parenting ourselves. And that's the structure I'm talking about when healing the shadow. We must address the inner structures that are created of how to deal with, like, for example, deep addiction, deep avoidance, deep fragmentation, deep disconnect. Like, how are we creating inner structures? So that's very, very important. And actually, that's a part of the ensoulment process. So what's your all your work around burning down the house and the shadow work, your entire work is a major thread throughout the entire ensoulment process. And it's ongoing even when you're connected to the soul of the world. So the fifth phase, we talked about waking up, soullessness, alchemy, ensoulment, and then merging with the soul of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout the entire phases, as you're going through in every aspect of your life, okay, The shadow is like a continuous friend walking down with you hands by hands. Do not think that you're going to get to the soul of the world and the little shadow will not pop up. I don't like this galaxy. It's too rough. I'm like, honey, she's going to come right there with you. Yes, so your work is so critical.
Oh my
It's so
God.
critical because the shadow is the ability to work with wounding and the ability to work with the unconscious.
Yes.
So, and the unconscious is 90 some percent. I mean, look how much dark matter. I mean, it's like the whole universe is actually primarily unconscious, unseen, unmanifested yet. So that's why shadow work and darkness work is so critical to have the whole process.
It is, and of course, I love it because and I think that's why I've had such, deep and profound experiences, whether it's in my own addictions or whether it was, my alcoholism when I was 25 and got sober. Doesn't matter. It's just like I can going through cancer. I mean, all of it. I can hold space because I've been there. I can see it. I can recognize it. I can see patterns of behavior. I can see people's shadow extremely quickly. It's the way that I'm a behavior tracker, and it's not even always conscious. It's just like I'm tracking human behavior.
It's funny how you're seeing my shadow and me seeing your and you seeing my avoidance and I'm seeing your like la 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 la, la talking to it's like our shadows are like meeting each other and it's like and then it's like okay, what was that? I didn't like that, but okay, whoa, like what? But then when people are conscious, they move through it. They move through it. And
Yeah.
again, I'm going back. And then what happened after that is greater creation, greater gifts, greater contribution, greater healing, greater ecstatic states. That's another thing I want to say that the more ensouled you are, the more a region ensouled, a natural reserve, whenever a place is more ensouled, there's states of ecstasy there. It's literally you breathing and you're like, what the fuck? Is this life? Can it be that good? And you don't need anything. You don't need tobacco. You don't need sex. You don't need food. Nothing. You're just like, the mere fact of being alive is so ecstatic. That's the Satchitananda, which they already talked about it, the Sanskrit and the Indian and the Hindus and the Buddhists. Like, okay, so I'm saying all this to say that there's a huge opportunity here. Shadow work is a major important part of that.
Mhm.
And also shadow work is evolving. So working on the unconscious and the patterns that are not serving us and are unseen is so accelerated. It used to be like 10 years of psychotherapeutical analysis. Now it's like 1 month. Whoa. Because there's an acceleration in time. Like we're going through a very, very, because of this portal that we're either going to birth a new earth or we're going to become like deep explode, implode into our oblivion, like either this or that. So there's an acceleration of time and space. So also the healing is accelerated. Okay,
Mhm.
so you and I can clear stuff, and I'm like completely clean with you. Like I just met you, and you're gorgeous, and you're beautiful, and I love you. Immediately after the healing happened, I don't need 10 years to forgive you, okay, or you to forgive me. It's
Right.
accelerated time and space.
Yes. Yes, and for me as well, through my own journey, it's just like when you understand also, and this is the part of the shadow too, is that normally when there's conflict between two people, I have come to the place in my life where I'm not in a story about all the shit you did and what a bad person you are between my own ears. I go into the place of when you trigger me and you bring my shadow forward, I'm like, thank you. Thank you for showing me where I am not healed. And that is the difference with how we perceive and receive life, right? It's
Yes,
like, thank you. Thank you for doing that.
what you just said, perceive and receive life. The more ensouled and healed, the more life can flow through you. The more light, the more your vessel is like a
Yes.
diamond, the crystal,
It's
precious. Yeah,
It's when we start attaching right and wrong and good. It's when we put all these labels around everything that I started on my journey with removing labels in 2008 when my life went into a complete collapse. Because I had my whole life was a label. I'm gay, I'm a recovering alcoholic, I'm a, work in corporate America, I'm an executive, I'm a this, I'm. And when my whole life imploded, at 47, I had no idea who I was. And that scared the shit out of me.
that's
Came
the phase. Yes, yes,
came
yes,
out of
yes.
a 17-year relationship. I was like, I don't know who I am without the we.
That's right. That's right.
You
But
know,
you see how this destruction was critical to creating something completely new, a new India?
yes. Yes. And this is what it is with everything. And that's why it's even like with Trump
Mm.
because this is how I see things. As a man, as a human, I find him repulsive and disgusting. I also find him to be a very tiny little man because the more power you have to have, the lower your self-worth and self-esteem is. Everything is in its duality.
Correct.
You're a bully, it's not because you're a tough guy, it's because you feel so horrible about yourself. It's your outward expression of your inward feelings. And it's so important to understand that piece.
Right.
And when we start to shift the way that we're viewing everything from Trump, I see him as a human from that space. And I don't attach my beliefs or anything around him. I don't even know what my own soul's journey is, Natalie. How could I possibly think I know what yours is or 8 other billion people on the planets? We all have to trust that we're doing what our own soul chose to incarnate here for. And
Right.
we don't know what that is.
Exactly.
So from a spiritual space, I see, and when I say the spiritual space, what he chose to incarnate here to do.
Oh, see, nice.
See, because if I believe that my soul chose here to come do its work, I have to assume that about 8 other billion people too, whether you believe that or not. It's what I believe in. It doesn't apply just to me, it applies to the planet. So to me, I look at Trump and I'm like, what are you here to do?
Mm,
What are you serving? What are you exposing?
exactly.
I don't have to like it, but that's where I'm in the observer role of everything that's happening. I don't submerge myself in the insanity of it.
Right.
Not in
Amazing.
politics, not in the shit, not in any of it. I'm like, that's not mine.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And when we start dancing in a whole different way where we're start observing not only our own life, but the life of everything around us, God, you talk about freedom. That's what my soul chose here was to be completely free
Mm,
in pure sovereignty.
amazing.
And I don't know this, but how my life is playing out, and I'm just like, what's happening right now? Because I'm at a whole other different calling that I can feel. I know, I just don't know what it is yet.
Amazing. Amazing. Amazing, my dear. So look, we have a couple more minutes. I have a session coming up. So my question is, anything we would like to wrap it up? Maybe it's going to be a beginning of a nice series. We'll see. So like what anything else we want to wrap up our beautiful dance here?
Yes, if someone stumbled across this video of me asking you all these wonderful questions about the soul, what would you like the viewer to take away from today?
Number one, you have a soul. Number two, do you know your soul? Number three, are you listening to her? Number four, do you love yourself? That's all.
Beautiful.
That's
And
all for now.
consider shadow the deepest form of self-love there is,
Mm.
right? It's like, yes. Thank you. Oh my God, it was so beautiful today. I love how we just let it,
Amazing.
let it.
There will be more of these.